most of the
No.
students, it's always been hand scheduled.
Correct.
Yeah.
And even with the best run, even with something in the 90s, you're still going to have hand scheduling, but it's not going to be dramatic. One of the things that we're going to be able to do in the schedule for next year, and again, we're going to be in our same scheduling role. We weren't able to build in student alternative choices because going over to the new system. Having the alternative choices in the system when it's running through the matrix, theoretically, it should make this percentages work out that much better and make the hand schedule that easier on the counselors.
Okay, thank you.
One quick thing, just a request for clarification. There has been some concern in the community that students who participate in the VOTEC programs down in Bridgewater might not be able to continue in that program with this type of a schedule, but other districts are doing it, correct?
Correct, and that's
So just
that's all I
wanted
was
it
gonna
to
say.
go on the record, on the video.
Yes.
And then I have a question about some of the other unique scenarios, like we have the senior internship program, both the full year and the end of year. And I guess we have students with a morning rotation sometimes.
Right.
I know it's a work in progress,
Sure.
but is there any sort of division of labor where there's people that are focusing on working on that aspect of this?
You know, we're looking at everything right now, and we haven't really had a deep dive into that aspect of the schedule. Certainly that's something on our list that we need to look at, but I think we need to get to what's our big product first, and then trying to kind of backwards into, now how do we make it work for this group of students? Because it's a specific group of students. So that's something we're still working on. We really have to spend a lot more time.
And is that something that, again, when you speak to the other districts, that you're hoping to learn from?
So the answer is that Chatham has an internship program just like that, and they happen to have a modified rotating schedule, so they'd be certainly a resource to speak to on that.
Thank you.
Is the classroom space or the teachers, the number of teachers in each category, or the class? Have you gotten to the point where you know that the bigger problem is going to be space, or the bigger problem is going to be teachers? What?
Based on what we're saying, again, we're just really starting to dive into the analysis at this point. There have been some runs where we had an okay percentage, but every room that we could use for an academic was having 6, 7, or mostly 8 classes in a room, which meant there was no flexibility for anything else. So again, we did our run using the exact parameters we had going into this year, and we got a very low percentage. So as far as staffing implications, we haven't gotten to that point. We're still working on the analysis, and I suspect we'll report back at that.
I'm just going to ask a quick one, Jimmy, and then I'll pass it to you. Back in December, when Dr. Grip came and he presented very much what you were just describing, how the classrooms filled and that lack of flexibility.
Dr. Marlowe, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Marenbloom. We saw that there were some classes with some very, very low enrollment, and there were some board member questions about what would that look like if we were able to better consolidate that. Is there any more data on that yet?
I think that the low enrollment is balancing as we go. I mean, the more we can fill at 85 or 90%, I believe the less of that we're going to run into. When you have a lower percentage, if you start flipping all those things around into your fill schedules, that's when you start to run into conflicts, and that balancing becomes imbalanced. You know, if you're filling 90% of the schedules, everyone is filled, fairly well.
When we were doing the scheduling in August, and we were in really good shape, mid-August, we felt really good. Okay, we're going to take a vacation, we're going to come back, and we're going to be all set to go to school. And then we had to do our option twos, and because all those numbers came in, and you see the study halls got bigger and bigger and bigger. The impact of the option 2 study halls took the electives, because you're not going to take a required course away from a student. The electives were what suffered. It went all over the place. And so that kind of took hand scheduling to a new level. So we looked at the impact of that, and so we're trying to figure out what are some ways that we can explore that, and hopefully we're going to come up with some solutions when we go through our analysis on that.
So everything that's like being added is currently all going to be on Ridge High School's property, right? Like there's no involvement in the like township committee in terms of we're not expanding the size of the school. It's going to be on property that's currently ours or on the second floor.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, comment. Let's just get that. Sure.
Okay. We're now up to superintendent's report. There are 5 items. Would someone like to make a motion to move them? Mrs. Wildred and Ms. Schaefer seconded. Does anyone have any, do you want to say anything first about anything?
You can vote first.
Okay, we can vote. And if anyone has any questions first, let us know. Yeah, you have a question?
I had a question about the club. Was there no, I looked at the write-up, but there's no, does every club have to have a teacher
Advisor.
Yes.
Was there a teacher advisor on that? There was, but there was no one signed up, but that's okay.
Yeah, so I've talked to.
It seemed a little like lacking in something.
Yeah, I've talked to actually Mr. Kraus is here still, but I did talk to Mr. Kraus about the need for having a supervisor of every club. So if we approve something and the advisor comes later, I just told him to make sure that I get the name of the person that's going to be the advisor. But by board policy, every club has to have an advisor.
Okay.
Mr. Byrne?
I'm a little concerned about the club myself because the inference is that we're going to improve the whole world. And there's a lot of politics and everything else involved with the world. I don't know whether I think that the idea that we can help everyone without working on the economic systems and everything else that these countries are working on, I'm not sure I agree with the club, so.
Well, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to save the whole world all at once, but they can try to do some good, I think. Okay. You have a question?
I just want to say if we have kids who want to try to save the world, that we should
Yeah.
encourage them to
Yeah.
do so.
Right. But it's not going to happen overnight. Okay. You have
Sorry.
another question?
Then I was reading the nursing, is that's number 5. The plan. Now, I was just looking at the numbers in that. Is that like every instance that someone comes to the nurse for something?
You want to
You
speak
want
to
to
the
speak to that,
nursing plan?
Sean?
Yeah.
I was just curious, because,
The nurses throughout the year track visits, so every visit is logged. So,
if a kid goes like 20 times to the nurse in one day, that's like,
each visit represents a separate,
Well-
within reason, yes.
well, because there's just some of the numbers, I was just like, whoa. But it's
Yes,
just-
can I tell you that every time a student comes for a Band-Aid, we're logging that? No.
Right, Oh,
but-
no? Because it seemed like you
No,
might be.
no, I will tell you myself that I went down for a Tylenol the other day and they didn't log that visit. So
Well, you,
granted,
but
I'm not a
but a
student, but
kid.
yeah, generally speaking, they're supposed to be logging each and every visit. And if a student
Okay.
comes down more than once a day, that would represent more than one visit. So that each visit would be an individual incident.
Okay, I just
Yeah,
was curious
yeah.
because the numbers were.
Yep. They are
One of my kids likes to get ice packs, so, it happens.
I think based on the numbers, they're doing a really good job
Yes,
of
they are.
logging just
They are
about
logging
everything.
Yes. They miss a bend, they want some meat.
Karen?
On the same report, I have a question about the Man-2 test at Cedar Hill. Was there something specific to that building that caused the need?
Why it's so large?
Yeah.
Yep, so what we do when we hire staff is we give them the option. So all staff have to take the Man-2 test, so that represents staffing that were tested. So of our new hires, about half of them take advantage of that Man-2 option at Cedar Hill.
It's because it's by
But
the
we were-
board office,
That's
and they
very
send them over
encouraging
there.
that we didn't have a
Yeah.
TB
No,
outbreak.
Yeah.
no, yes, that's why.
Yeah.
Our nurse at Cedar Hill administers for new hires.
It's just because it's next to the board office, and that's where he
Correct.
sends them. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
No on 3, yes on the others.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes,
Madam President?
thank you. Okay, now we have Mr. Markarian, the superintendent's report.
Okay, so just a couple other things I want to mention. First, I want to just thank Mr. Kraus, Mr. Fackelman. Thank you guys for coming tonight. And I know that, running a mock schedule when you just finished the last schedule, starting over, and let's work on a new schedule, and you thought you were going to get a break from master scheduling. I know it's a big ask, so I appreciate everybody. I know it's not just you and Michael that have been working on it, but a lot of the admins have been chipping in to try to make sure that we feel really confident that we're going to be able to make a better mousetrap, so to speak. So I just wanted to thank you guys both for working on that and for the other admins that contributed to help you with that project. But just to follow up on that, I know that, what we didn't really talk about tonight specifically was the why. We talked about the what and the how, but we didn't talk much about the why. We've been talking about the why for a long time as well. And in large part, it's associated with our district goals. It's associated with our strategic plan. We're really trying to make for a better overall learning environment for the students. So we're looking at all kinds of issues, how we could perhaps make life better for both students and staff, improving the climate at the school by implementing this alternative type schedule, by allowing the students to have the opportunity to get a break in the middle of the day at a time that is not period 8 where we're running out of food, but at a time of the day where they might more likely actually want to have lunch and a little bit more timely with when maybe they had breakfast. So the unit lunch concept is nice in that regard. Also gives them a chance to maybe have lunch with their best friends and peers and get a chance to take a break during the day, to have perhaps less subjects to prepare for each night for the next day because they're only seeing 6 of their 8 classes on a daily basis. So that's some of the why that we've been looking at over the last several years. But I wanted to mention that we're continuing the why conversation through BT Connect. We've been talking about that briefly over the last couple board meetings, which is sort of the name of the communication effort that we want to have with the staff, the students, the parents, to kind of speak about a lot of the issues associated with the strategic plan that we wrote last year, and certainly SEL, culture and climate, the master schedule, things like that are certainly a big part of our strategic plan. So we're going to be continuing those conversations. We're going to have some public forums about these different topics where we're going to ask the public, we're going to ask students, hopefully get lots of student input, parents, staff members come, talk to us about these different topics that we're working on, and help us have some of your insights into the issues as you see them. Things like start times. I know that I sent out last week on Friday some information to the community about school start times. Some of you might have noticed that California is taking some pretty significant action statewide about school start times. If you're not aware of that, just as they say, Google it, you'll see all about it. So we're looking forward to having some of those conversations that aren't just about the schedule, aren't just about start times, but we've got some other interesting topics. And we're having a planning meeting tomorrow that will help us kind of solidify what those are going to be so that we can get a schedule put together, get some dates put together, and get it out to the community so that we can try to solicit lots of input in the same way that we had the strategic planning meetings last year. Open call, anybody wants to talk about these topics, we're interested in hearing what you have to say. So it's actually going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. I also wanted to mention something that I heard a lot about this week. Actually, this is only Monday, so it must have been last week. Time is all blending together. Math counts came up as a question last week. I was having a conversation with Kristen, and Grant's still here. Way to go, Grant. So Math Counts is a program over at the middle school. It's had a mix of staffing over the course of many years. Sometimes staff at the school have helped run the club, and most recently, for the last few years, I guess, we had our math supervisor volunteering her time actually on weekends, sort of pro bono to help make the club work. And we didn't really have a supervisor for the club this year. So we had some folks asking about if we were going to find a way to make the club work. And I answered some emails in the affirmative that yes, we were going to find a way to make the club work. We just have to come up with a plan of how we're going to staff it, and we'll get that information out to folks by the end of October. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we are up to public comment on agenda items. So this is your opportunity if you have comments or questions. Did I forget the approval of minutes again? No. Yeah, we did the vote already. Okay, so I'm good. Okay, so public comment on agenda items. This is your opportunity to ask questions or comments. If you're going to come up, please come up, and you can sign in on the clipboard after you speak, but tell us your name and address when you come up to the microphone so we know who you are. Thank you. And there's a later public comment for other items that aren't on the agenda. I think it's this one. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rajesh Madabushi. I've been a resident of this town for the past 7 years. I have a high schooler who's in 12th grade, and I have a middle schooler. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the math counts that Mr. Markarian brought up. I was actually the person that was running this before Ms. Bowman took over this. It started off about 7 years ago when my son was in 6th grade. There were 4 kids that were interested in this program back then. But by the time we got into 8th grade, there were about 20 kids that were interested. So I put a formal structure in place for this. And I ran it as a parent in partnership with Ms. Hudock. Thanks for all her support. And then when my son was in the 9th grade, Ms. Bowman was kind enough to take it over. In fact, she took the process that I'd set up, and she basically took it over and replicated it, and she ran it for a few years until she retired. So I think thanks to Mr. Markarian for, I think, agreeing to support this. But I do want to kind of highlight one key thing. I guess I've heard through one other parent that fundamentally I think it's the board policy of not compensating teachers for at least 3 years before they can, I think, start getting compensated for these extracurricular activities. I'm not sure, but that's what I heard. What I was hoping is, I think the board actually look at this not just in the context of math counts, but more broadly, because there are other programs where a lot more kids are also interested, like the Science Bowl. I don't know if you're all aware, the middle school team back in 2015 won the New Jersey State Championship. And last year, the high school team actually won the New Jersey State Championship, represented the state of New Jersey at the National Science Bowl, and finished among the top 16 teams in the country. So I want to kind of figure out if there is a broader way of actually setting up a framework where more of these kind of things can be supported in middle school. I think one of the points that came up is these things don't happen overnight. You have to actually nurture these things and support these things from a very young age because it's a very competitive world out there. And when you actually look at kids that are excelling at the national level, the schools actually do have a proper ecosystem to groom talent from a young age. And it not only, I think, helps those kids, obviously, it's a pyramid at the end of the day. It not only helps the kids, but it actually raises the bar for a whole host of other kids, and everyone benefits from this. So what I'm hoping is the board and Mr. Markarian and others look at this more broadly and not just in the context of math counts, because I think if we can put a proper framework, and obviously I think I understand the finances are quite tight for a lot of these programs. Parents are actually willing to step in and basically pick up the costs. There's, I think, a strong appetite in the community for doing that. It's not just the economic support. There are a lot of parents. In fact, I'm a board-certified volunteer myself because that's what I had to do to run the Math Counts program. I'm willing to spend my time to actually help the community more broadly, and I think there are a lot more parents that are actually interested in doing these things. So I think if you actually look at this more holistically, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
My name's Lauren Beckman. I'm at 25 Hunters Lane. And my question is this very simple question to Ms. Fox about the NJSLA. So there was one slide that you had talked about that if ways that the kids can be exempt if they had scored certain on the SAT or were in the AP class. Is that, how do they opt out? Is that automatic? They just don't show up, or do they have to fill out a form, something like option 2, where they have to get it signed ahead of time? So that's my question. So thank you.
We'll respond after all the public comments.
My name is Chi Zhang. I'm the mother of 2 boys, one in high school, one in middle school. I just want to support the other parents talking about math count and science ball, because we moved here last year from Indiana, and I was expecting that in New Jersey the schools will be even better and have more those kind of programs running and to promote the students to learning more. But to my disappointment, I found out here those math count program, science book program is not there, and parents have to make a lot of effort to try to get those kind of program back in Indiana, which is Middle West. And those programs in the school is offered starting, math count actually starts from 4th grade all the way through the high school. And I think science book starts from 6th grade all the way to the high school. And they also offer geographic B program, spelling bee program. I think spelling bee starting from elementary school, geography bee starting from middle school. So I'm kind of a little bit disappointed, but I like to, as other parents said, I like to offer my help and support. Thank you.
My name is Praveen Sirikonda. I live in the Patriot Hill, in the Hills area. And I just moved into New Jersey last November into Basking Ridge, knowing this is a good school district. And for my surprise, I came to know that there's no science bowl here. And also math counts. I mean, math counts, thank you for raising the same point. And I'm here to support the science bowl and the math counts. And then another point that I want to understand from our about the scores and the metrics that you've been presenting here, and like one of the gentlemen raised a point that comparing against the district does not make much sense. I mean, I would like to understand also, along with knowing how we are compared against other school districts within New Jersey, and I just want to expand that into see how our scoring system or our standards within our school district compared to other competitive states like California and other places. I would like to understand that as well, to see where our testing standards are and how our students are comparing against those. So that way we are building more towards to be very competitive within the country, so not only within the state. That's one point that I want to really understand. And the last point that I want to understand here is just like seeing the scores of the student does not really translate into the teacher performance or teacher impact on the student scores. I would like to know or understand how teachers are assessed year over year about their performance, and then how they are imparting this education to the students in the classroom. Or is it becoming a legacy, like, if you're there for 10 years, you know how to teach the kids, and then is it granted or how it is assessed? I would like to know that, maybe not now, maybe next board meeting, if you could provide some information around that.
Hello, my name is Shrikar Matabushi. I'm a senior at Ridge. We live at 78 Carlisle Road. Over there, that's my dad. He already came and spoke to you about math counts and Science Bowl. But I think it would be a little more strong coming from a student who's actually participating in this activity, so I'd just like to reiterate the point. As parents here have already said, there are a lot of opportunities available for students at the middle school and high school level, and I think that the board and the high school and middle school should collaborate together to spend more time pursuing these activities, to cultivate that kind of academic interest so that as students progress, they become, more able, they have these abilities. Now, personally, I'm the president of the National Math Honor Society at Ridge. I'm also co-captain of the Ridge Science Bowl team. And what I've noticed is that the strongest students, they're the ones who've been nurtured at the middle school level. And that means that we should be spending more time investing in students' abilities in math and science by looking at Science Bowl at the middle school level, looking at math counts at the middle school level to give them these opportunities. Now, I want to speak on Science Bowl first. We've been doing Science Bowl for 7 years, since I was in 6th grade. We've been running it out of a basement, a friend's basement, for 7 years with a group of no more than 10 students. In that time, last year specifically, we went to nationals. We won $1,500 for the school science department. And we are the only parent-run team in the high school division to make it to nationals or to even compete at the state level. You pointed out there are a lot of other schools. You said Milburn, you said Princeton, West Windsor. All these schools show up to the regionals for Science Bowl. They all have coaches. They all have a develop program that's been going on for years, and we beat them. But the problem is we are also, a large portion of our team is seniors, and that talent's not going to be cultivated if we don't invest in it now before it dies out. Like what happened with the middle school, we haven't run Science Bowl there in over 2 years, which is also kind of disappointing considering we made nationals when we were in 8th grade. The other point I'd like to make with math is that math counts, they canceled it this year. I was shocked because we've been running math counts for 9 or 10 years now, and parent volunteers, they've taken all the responsibility, all the effort for this, and frankly, we've had incredible success with math counts. We had 2 students who represented New Jersey 2 years in a row, and one of them got 4th in the country. And personally, I've made states. The team won states a couple of years. 2 years ago, Miss Bowman, she was the coach for the William Annan team. She got to take the New Jersey team to DC all the way to nationals. So incredible opportunities. There's also Geography B, which the school doesn't offer, Spelling Bee, which the school doesn't offer, that could really impact and motivate students if we just took a little more time to focus on those things. Yeah, thank you. That's it from me.
Hi, good evening. My name is Helen Zhang. I live in 31 Lafayette Lane. Actually, for tonight, I saw that tonight's agenda is for the BOE candidates' presentation, so I messed up the schedule. But it's very good to hear the scheduling proposal and other information here. So I do have two quick questions. One is for that alternative scheduling. How does that impact the school starting time? I think you also mentioned that California just published a new law. So how does that impact our high school here? And also, I don't know if you already covered that before, but I'm not very clear at this moment. And also, you touch upon the why. Even the why, I'm not very clear too. With that proposal, and then you're talking about the process, but I'm also not very clear about the timeline. So when that's going to be implemented and how that transition is going to happen. So that's my first question. It's a long question though. So my second one, this is also my first time here, so I just want to take this opportunity to ask my second question. So for the past, I think a couple years, we have been asking the school district to offer AP Chinese. So I understand in a few years ago, you have offered a Chinese class, and then due to the low enrollment issue, and they had to be canceled. But things changed. So I'm just wondering, is this going to be reconsidered again? And last year, we have almost a dozen of high school students running around, especially parents, helping them to find a AP test center. Fortunately, some of us was able to find the AP test center, and they were able to take the AP test, but for some students, they couldn't. So I'm just taking this opportunity to ask the board to reconsider, and hopefully in the future, there's an opportunity for those students. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Luda Kukos. I came here originally to support the math counts, but I would like to also bring up question of how kids are at a younger age not given the opportunity to participate in math competitions. I have two kids, soon to be 3 kids in the district, and I have a daughter in WAMS and third grader at Cedar Hill, and when I wrote to the administration about allowing my third grader to participate in CML, it's a math contest, specifically Ms. Fox answered that there will be a policy that will only allow kids to participate on their grade level, and this grade level is not clear, because just because a kid is enrolled in third grade doesn't mean his math skill is on third grade, and if he is willing to participate in math competitions, he's going to be putting in a lot more effort into studying the subject. So also I asked the math coordinator at WAMS, and I was told that kids at WAMS do have the right to participate in any higher grade than they are enrolled in. So for example, my 6th grader would be allowed to participate in 7th or 8th grade CML. I contacted CML, the organization, and they told me it's completely up to the child in the school to decide which grade he'll be taking. So this is connected to me with the topic with math count. Why is the school not allowing the kids from early age to participate in competitive academic activities? Thank you.
Hey, good evening, board members. My name is Kai Yi, and I live in 47 Watchung. So I just want to give some comments also on the math count and a little bit something else. So at first, when I heard that this year we're gonna discontinue mass counts, we are a little bit shocked because that I have 3 kids in the school district. Of course, some of them are in elementary, some of them are still in the pre-K, but I do see that my daughter, who is in WAMS, and through the math programs like the AMC, CML, and math count, her interest in math raising significantly. You can see the school does provide good projects, a good program to raise their general interest. And last year, she's involved in math count team, although she's not selected for the school team, but she's very happy and raised her interest. So I think those good programs we like to continue. And secondly, I think the math count, like the geography bowl, science bowl, all those things actually went as low grade as possible can help the entire school district to help them advance. Like that gentleman mentioned, we're not just competing like provide the opportunity for the kids to learn. We also want to compete with other school districts, Melbourne, Princeton, right? They all always have the school district support to follow those outside school program. And I think we as a good school district, we should also doing that. And third thing, of course, I'm very happy to learn that in October, we are reconsidered to resume the math count. I just want to say if there's anything needed and you think the parents can help do the financial, I'll step in to help in time. Well, I'm very happy to doing those kind of things. And I have another question related to the high school, the program change. Since I was not involved in the Y part, as Ms. Border mentioned, so just a quick question. So the 9th grade squeezed into 8th grade, the school time will change. That's one of the reasons. Like starting time will be pushed and the end time will be changed. Okay, so that's no. So second thing that's previously they have 9 periods, which means they have a diversity of courses can learn. And right now into 8 period, does that mean they have to drop one of thing they will be interested? Okay, yeah. Thank you for that.
Good evening, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and board members. My name is Lee. I live in an 80 Spring House Lane, right next to the middle school. I have 2 kids in William Annan, and that's the reason why we moved so near to the middle school, for the convenience.
Can you just pull the microphone lower?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. And recently, surprising news came to the community, says our school district may not sponsor mass counts, which is so sad and surprising to the whole communities and many families. Because I have to say, my family moved from Maryland to New Jersey last summer, so this is our 2nd year. And before we moved here, we did some research online for the top school districts in New Jersey. And when we see all the rankings, we try to dig more. So when we saw the news, William and the math counts team won the state championship. And then we got 2 national finalists, and also 2 students got a national top 50, which is such a great news to a STEM family. And so here we come. I hope you could understand the interest of STEM to our family and also to many students. And we think we can find our peers here and also support. I want to talk a little about math and math counts. Some students love math. Other students fear math. Math counts is the place for both. Math Counts is an engaging math program to you as middle school students of all ability levels to build confidence and improve attitude about math and problem solving. Math Counts bring together students from all 50 states in a series of in-person contests, which is the only competition program of its kind. It was launched in 1983 and just entered the 36th year. Each year in May, the national competition is presented live on TV, and many students, families, and audience watch it online. It is so fun. The national winners and coaches have been recognized by all presidents ever since President Reagan. More than 250,000 students participate in each year, and last year in New Jersey, 584 teams competed in regional level, including WAMs. Math Counts is the most important math competition for U.S. middle school students, grade 6 to 8 only. Elementary school students cannot play up, and high school students cannot play down. And the students have to be on a school team, which means if the school does not sponsor the program, or the school does not let parents chair the program, then the students have no chance to enter. Math Counts is a team game, which is so rare among all the math and STEM competitions. It helps math students with team building and helps them improving team belongings. It has taken years of many parents' effort to help set up the Math Counts program in WAMS. And WAMS team have won regional and state championship in the last couple of years, which brought great honor to our school and district, and also families here. It will send a negative message to all students and parents and communities that our school doesn't seem to support Math Counts and STEM as much as it did if WAMS quit this year. Yes. Enough, thank you. It will also discourage students, especially who have interest and potentials in math, if WAMS stop sponsor such program. I just heard our high school's principals did some research when comparing the bell time and schedule with other school districts' high schools. I'm just curious if our middle school or school district administrators have a little bit research or experience about how much effort other schools, middle schools, and districts put into Math Counts. If you look into Princeton or West Windsor's website, you could see Math Counts information in their math teacher's website and lots of resources, but we cannot find anything here. I totally understand the actual difficulties in finding a staff to volunteer and donate the time on weekends to the Math Counts program, but our parents, as stakeholders of the school district, please let us help and donate our time. If it is so difficult to find a staff to fill the spot, we can do a parent and staff co-coach, which is also allowed. I also understand there are some confusions and concerns from the administrators about how the program was chaired by parents, about some gray area or some rules. But please understand, Math Counts has been there for more than 30 years. All the rules are so clear and restrict, and everything you can think of, you can feel concerned could be avoided, and we can do our best to try to make everything so clear and transparent to everyone. Okay, finally, I just want to say, as a parent, please let us help, please let us voice. We just want to be in the communication and want to be in the game, help our kids. Thank you so much.
Hello, Stella Perna, 105 Tuxford Terrace. I didn't know about Math Counts, but go Math Counts, I like it. So my questions are a little different, but I'll circle back with what I think we should be taking advantage of and leveraging parents who are willing to volunteer. And God knows that I volunteered enough, and a lot of the people here that are in the audience have as well. Some of the questions I had, which I feel are low-hanging fruit, is why are we waiting until 2021 to do a late start for school? And maybe I missed that point. I know the law that just went into effect in California does not go into effect until 2022. Well, by then, my kid's out of here. That to me, if you're looking for mental health improvement, right there, start them late. When the kids have delayed opening, I'm telling you, it's like leprechaun clicking heels at home. So, anytime there's a day off or half a day or delayed opening, the mood is just lifted. So I feel like that's an easy one to do. And I don't know if logistically that's something we can do. In terms of the $7 million kitchen we're getting, why can't we just improve the food now? To me, that's another thing. Have the vending machines open, and I know it's a problem with Aramark, but could we make that happen? I feel like that's just easy stuff to fix. I'm all about fixing stuff. Let's see. The 3 weeks of classes for health for 10th grade. I know we received something at back to school night from the gym teachers, and it's just high level. I haven't seen the details of the curriculum, and I can hardly wait for that. But can students opt out? And I'd like to understand what that process is. Also, can I ask why teachers still insist on starting the school year with the comment of saying that they don't believe in giving out A's? I'll tell you what, nothing demotivates a child faster than someone getting up in front and saying, I don't believe in A's. This is not the first year. This has happened to my twin daughters, and I can tell you it bums them out. And it takes a lot of in their character. They have to dig down and go, you know what, I'm going to prove her wrong. And it's not just one teacher. Many teachers take this tact. There's a better way to say it. The way to say it is, if you want to get an A in this class, this is an honors class, you're going to need to work hard. I'm not giving them out easily. You have to show me that you deserve that A. There's a way to say it to motivate the kids. But to say they don't believe in it, I'm sorry, that is just wrong. When we talk about this new building or the $7 million venture, it sounds like we're getting 4 classrooms, a smaller room, and kitchen servicing. But where are the kids eating? Is there an actual place where they're going to eat, or are they still just going to use the same lunchroom? And that wasn't really clear to me. And I know that there are district goals. I kind of feel like a goal should be promote math, promote science, let parents help. My daughter had to enter Science Olympiad all on her own. She had no support. And she stayed up one night, built a solar car, and came in 6th in the state and got Ridge on the map. We had never been on the map before. And I can tell you she was frustrated. She said, I wish I had a team behind me. It was really hard. So she built the car. I took her down to I don't know if it was Princeton or Monmouth, wherever, and she was really happy with herself for doing it. But there should have been a support system in place, and I just feel like we're missing an opportunity. Math early is important. It gives the kids a love of math that they don't stop, because their brains are always critically thinking of solving. It's not just solving a math problem, it's solving life problems. They look at everything as a possible solution, and not one way is a solution. So please consider that. And I don't know the details behind it. Thank you. I don't know the details behind the staffing for it, but gosh, I wish you'd use that $7 million for math and science rather than what we're trying to do. I don't understand. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Michelle, and I live on the hills. Actually, I was not thinking to talk tonight, but this morning, first I want to introduce, I have 1 kid in Williams Annie, and I have 2 kids in the Mount Prospect. This morning, I talked with another parent, and surprisingly, I found out that science fair in Mount Prospect cannot be held there anymore just because the same reason as the mass count. There's no staff in the school are willing to volunteer the time for that anymore. So, I'm here to support the mass count, but also I hope our school district can give more support for our STEM programs, no matter in elementary school level or the middle school level. Looks like, our staffs in the school need the support. They volunteer their times during the weekend, and we know if they according to our rules, 3 years, no pay, just volunteering, this will be hard for anyone. So please, I know we are supporting the mass count, but also we want to support the whole STEM programs in our school district. And I think our school and our teacher need more support on this. Without solving these problems, I think this will, maybe every year, we will talk about we need to find some stuff for this. We need some, volunteers for the next year. We will keep talking because everybody's time is really important to their family. And without a certain support, nobody can do this. The science fair in elementary school has been canceled for the staff reason. And the middle school, the mass count, or the science ball, all of this kind of STEM programs, if all of this will be canceled because of the same reason, that means we have a problem in our school district. We need more support. Thank you.
Hello, Elaine Daddario, 46 Dykeman Place. I'm just going to reiterate a lot of what everybody said. She's saying there's problems in the district. I feel like there are problems in the district. Problems that need to be solved, but yet we don't have the money for those things. We have money for an additional kitchen. It doesn't make sense to me. When you're saying that we're going to put 9 pounds into 8-pound bag, how does that de-stress these children? That sounds stressful to me just to hear it, like you're jamming more into less space. It doesn't make sense. Then you keep promoting on all the videos over the last few meetings. Option 2, study halls, too many study halls. That's something that people in this district feel is important to de-stress their children. Either the movement in the gym classes in the PE, or the option 2, if they've got something outside of that. And yet we keep talking about prepping for removal of those things as if they're not important. So, this kitchen is costing a lot of money. A lot of money that was taken out of activity funds and things. Mostly that stuff is fundraised by parents. I'm getting really frustrated to feel like parents pay for everything in this district, but yet we don't have the money for the most important and basic things. You don't have money for the math teacher to keep these programs going, but we've got $7 million for a kitchen, for a drop schedule that I've heard nothing bad about, but at the same point, I heard a parent whose kids have graduated from Ridge say, both my daughters went to Berkeley, and they didn't have a drop schedule. Is that really the priority right now? When you talk about the why, give me really solid reasons why we're doing this drop schedule. I haven't heard anything bad, but I haven't heard real solid facts on why, what the benefits are going to be to our kids, that's where our money is going. There are so many things in this facility. I'll tell you, when I see the facilities report about things that we've done in district, that money came from the Ridge Sports Foundation paid for the gym and the field, but yet we're promoting it on those slides over the summer as if they were district funded. A lot of that stuff is paid by parents. A lot of things in this district are paid by parents. All the sports are, everything else. Where does our money go when then you have to siphon $7 million out for this drop schedule? And then I'm at a meeting where Boosters is saying that they're going to put a list together of the facilities because the facilities are so old. Where's that money coming from? The $7 million should be going to the things we need now. And if we have extra, then go to something new. Just an opinion. I'll say that for now. Thank you for your time. I'm coming back at the next section.
Is there anyone else for public comment on agenda items? Okay, so at this point, I'll close public comment on agenda item. Oops, sorry, I just turned off my microphone. I just want to respond to a couple of questions that were about the high school schedule, just to clarify. It's not reducing a number of classes that a student can take. It's the same number of classes, just scheduled differently. So students wouldn't be taking less electives or classes. So I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. I know there's people here that haven't been at the previous meetings where we talked about it. And there's a bunch of presentations on our website from other meetings about the high school schedule. And for people who have been around for many, many years, we've been talking about it for we decided over 7 years now, I think. There are lots, when we're talking about the whys, there are lots and lots of whys. A lot of them have to do with educational, the way that classes are taught with teaching and things like that, and also professional development. So I think the Bernard's Connect strand that's going to be talking about this is a good place for parents to find out more information about the whys, because there's so much information about it and research out there. And if people haven't been here during all of the discussions of it, we can't just recap it right now. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. And there was one other just clarification about that high school schedule, and now I can't find it on all my notes, but I'll find it later. So do you want to respond to any of the other questions?
Sure. There was a question about whether school start time, and maybe this is the one you were thinking. Right. So school start time is not connected to the rotating drop schedule. The rotating drop schedule could certainly be implemented with the same start time that we have now. The rotating drop schedule is not something that we're thinking about for the next school year. It would be for the following school year. And as far as school start time is concerned, it's a really big issue. I don't think it's something that we would implement overnight, even if it proves to be feasible. And by proving to be feasible, there's a lot of variables to look at, not the least of which is transportation and trying to figure out if that could work. But it obviously has a huge impact on the entire community. Would the middle school be included? How would the middle school be included if it were? Is it strictly going to be the high school? How does it affect the elementary school? So there's obviously a lot there, and I couldn't see that happening, maybe at the same time that rotating drop were to happen at Ridge in a couple years, but it's something I think that needs a lot of time to really help determine if everybody would be in support of it, or if at least enough people would be in support of it, and whether or not even the logistics could be feasible. So that's a project that would take some time, and we want to start talking more about it. But it's not connected to a change in the master schedule at Ridge. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was going to report later during liaison reports, but Mr. Marcari and I attended a meeting for the county superintendents and boards where other towns that are looking at the start time were there, and it's very, very complicated. There's some towns that probably will just never be able to do it because their busing is triple tiered, and it would cost them so much money to try to change it that they probably don't have the option. We may be able to. We've tried to look at this in years past, and transportation was different, years ago than it is now with how our busing services work. So it's a time to look at it again, and we're hopeful, because other towns are looking at it, that we can get enough information and make that kind of decision, sometime in the hopefully nearish future, but not overnight, like Mr. Markarian said.
Right. I also want to speak a little bit to sort of the implication or suggestion that somehow things like National Science Bowl don't happen because we're not supporting staff or providing salary, or that we don't want to support staff with compensation, and so it doesn't happen because we're spending the money on other things. That's patently not true. We've tried to offer money for some things like National Science Bowl, and sometimes people still don't want to do it. So despite the fact that funds have been offered, and very reasonable compensation similar to other clubs that have similar time requirements, sometimes people don't want to get involved in something that maybe it's going to take them away from weekend activities, and it's just a big challenge, as one of our speakers noted. It's really tough on the weekends if there's a requirement there. So sometimes it's not about compensation, where we've tried to offer compensation and people are still not interested in doing it. So I don't really think it's about money for, relatively, small kinds of projects that are co-curricular stipends. It is true, somebody asked about a process. There is board policy about clubs and advisors and compensation, and when some new club might start to be compensated. There is policy about that, but even when the board has tried to be more generous in saying, hey, we'll offer a stipend, will somebody be interested in doing this? And we haven't had success in making that happen. So it's not about, oh, well, we're not spending money and supporting the staff to do a club because we're trying to spend money on an addition. That's not at all the case. School start times. Oh, AP testing. Yeah, so this is an interesting challenge. And is Jean, I don't know if Jean's still here. So I know Jean O'Connell and I have talked about this issue. And to her credit, she and her staff have always been extremely accommodating in helping families when there are needs to get special accommodations made for AP testing, and it's not conveniently available at a school to do the AP testing with the accommodations. Pardon me? No, I think that was the AP. No, but there was a separate question on AP testing. Yeah, there was somebody asking about AP Chinese. There was also somebody asking about accommodations and making testing access easier. And we do run into that as a challenge sometimes. So, but I know that Jean's been great about helping us get those issues resolved. So when they come up, we handle them. Do you want to speak on the exemptions opt-out question?
Right, so I thought the question, you referenced graduation requirements, but I think you were asking about opting out more than the graduation requirements. So that we don't have an opt-out process or policy. I mean, we encourage students to take or exemptions. I mean, that would only be a very individualized situation through the IEP process. There aren't exemptions and there isn't an opt-out process, but we encourage students to take it, and we have students who don't participate, and that is really, an individual parental decision. I think that's what you were asking.
I think she was asking about the options, if in the classes of whatever the next couple years are, the options of using a different test instead of the,
Well, sure.
for graduation
There are
requirements.
different ways to
Right.
meet the graduation requirement, and those are on the slideshow, with the cut scores.
Right, right.
They don't need to meet, if they meet the graduation requirement with one of the others, then they don't need to meet it through the NJSLA exam.
Right.
No. I mean, we offer the testing and we encourage students to come. Sure, it's an assessment of their year's work, and so we don't just say don't come. We still encourage them to come, but there are two ways to meet the graduation requirement.
There was a question I wrote down about the comparative data, the testing data, comparing to state and national. And as Kristen said before, the data gets released at a different time where we can see other districts when there's the state report card that comes out. So we can see that comparative data when that information becomes available. There's also national data. New Jersey actually just came in first and beat Massachusetts for the first time, I guess, in the national data. But, I think that, there is comparative data out there.
There's limited comparative data nationally because states run their own
Right,
state
they don't all
assessment.
take the same test.
Correct.
So it's not looking at the tests we looked at tonight, it's looking at other tests. But overall, when they try to do national comparisons, New Jersey does well. But
New
no, you
Jersey
can't
does
directly
well.
compare our NJSLA test to another state because they're all doing different stuff.
Right. But they still, if you do research, you can find evaluations kind of comparatively ranking states overall on public education, and you'll typically see like Massachusetts, New Jersey, A couple of others are typically up there in the top 5 every year. New Jersey's typically among the top 5. They also, kind of look at it from a secondary level beyond graduation, where are the students going? Are they going to colleges? How successful they are? So, even though it might not be directly correlated to
Our district.
NJSLA or Berners Township in particular, certainly public education in New Jersey is extremely strong relative to the rest of the country.
Correct.
Somebody asked, I think, about the health, 3 weeks of health. We're going to talk about that actually at the next Board of Ed meeting when we do an update on strategic plan SEL content. And just to be clear, I tried to kind of get the message out earlier in the meeting, but we're not canceling math counts at William Allen. We just have to work out the staffing. So just to be clear.
Mr. Byrne?
I think one of the important items is that our current high school classes are 43 minutes long. And by the time, and that's the shortest class period, I think, that I've seen in any high school in the state. When you take enrollment and the rest of it, maybe I'm out a minute or so, but our classes are almost 30 minutes by the time you get the attendance and what have you over. Much too short. And so one of the reasons for the drop schedule and the rotating drop schedule is to get the classes back to an hour, which would give a much better chance to teach some of the important courses that need more time than 30 minutes. And that required rotating drop, and in turn, it forced the number of meals being cooked in the cafeteria. I think there's 4 meals a day. I might be off a little bit on the numbers. But under the new rotating drop schedule, there's only going to be 1 meal time. And the cafeteria cannot cook for the total number of people in the school for 1 meal. So what's happened is we had to expand the kitchen to be able to cook for the entire school for 1 lunch. The total number of periods, again, is 8 plus the lunch. But right now we have, because of the rotating eating time, the 4 meals or whatever it is, 5 meals, we have 9 periods, and they teach classes during the lunch. Well, when you have only 1 lunch, we're losing not the classes, but we're losing the rooms, because the rooms are being used during lunch. Well, when everyone's taking lunch at the same time, the rooms are not available. So the reason for the expansion of the kitchen and the rooms was to accommodate the longer class time. And we're not eliminating anything, but we're trying to make the schedule much more compatible to learning. So the 43-minute class time was a problem. We are trying to fix that, and that's costing a little money. We're not wasting the 70 million or whatever in the world, no, 7 million. We're trying to increase the class period time. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Okay, so now we're up to approval of minutes. There's 1 item. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Wooldridge, does someone like to second? Mrs. Korn? Does anyone have comments or questions on the minutes? Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne,
Yes?
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes,
Madam President.
thank you. We're up to the Finance Committee. There's 3 items. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. White and Mrs. Korn. Did you have anything?
No, we're meeting on Monday, but item 1 is standing items, 2 is field trip destination, and 3 is acceptance of out-of-district placement.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President.
Thank you. We're up to personnel. There's 22 items. There's an addendum. Make sure you check that. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Gray, Mrs. Wooldridge? Any comments or questions before we vote? Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to the policy committee report. You guys just met today, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we just met today, and is there something there? No. So I'll read it out next time.
Okay, under curriculum, there's 2 items. Would someone like to make a motion for those? Mrs. Gray and Mrs. Wooldridge? Do you have anything to say, or no? I think curriculum met, and the minutes will be coming out shortly, right?
Yeah, minutes will be coming out very soon.
Any comments or questions on these items before we vote? Okay, could we have a roll call?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President.
Thank you. We're up to advocacy, which,
We have not met, and we won't be meeting until November.
but a lot of the people will be going tomorrow
To the
to Berners
Connect.
Township Connect, right? And a lot of the PTO presidents will be also attending that, or other people from their school
Correct.
will be attending. Okay. SEL.
Our next meeting is on Halloween morning, 8 a.m.
Oh, my gosh.
Halloween. Wait, Halloween morning, not the day after, not the day after. Okay, because the day after is always rough too, so I'm glad it's not the day after. Yeah, okay. Liaison reports, Linda?
Yeah, I just have, the Municipal Alliance met on October 8th, and I just have a couple quick updates with some stuff happening in November. So at Ridge, the Municipal Alliance is planning an anti-vaping activity. The purpose of it is to connect students with resources to help them to quit vaping if they're having difficulty. So it's just a little bit different approach than in years past when they had a table. And then also in November, on Tuesday, November 12th, at the Town Hall at 7 p.m., there is a presentation called What Are You Really Vaping? And it's presented by Caitlin Cartoccio and some of the RAD students. And that's it.
Thank you. And I already mentioned the meeting about the start time that Mr. McCarron and I attended last week. And their county superintendents are interested in forming like subcommittees to look at different aspects, like how it might affect athletics and things like that, and get some other people involved, like the athletic directors. Also, there's going to be a joint Somerset County, is it Mercer County? Mercer County school board meeting November, I want to say like 14th or something, but we'll put the date in weekly notes. And it's going to be about the start time issue. And Princeton will be there to talk about how it went for them. And so it sounds good. And the guy who gave the presentation at the meeting we went to the other day, who wrote the report that was in the weekly notes that Nick sent out, the pediatrician that's like heading the task force, he spoke. He'll be at that school board's meeting. So it should be a good meeting. Okay, we're now up to, the Bridgewater meeting that he had put in weekly notes. They're having a public meeting, and they're going to live stream it. And so people can watch that too, to hear what issues their public brings up, because they've been talking about it in Bridgewater also. Okay, we're up to public comment on non-agenda items. If anyone has public comment, now is the time.
Alexandra Schwartz, 67 Bernard Drive. If I may, I actually have two more questions regarding the presentations. One was the district testing report. There were a couple of slides in there with data on the ELLs, and the other group was, I think, the DLMs. And for some of them, it looked like we only had about 3 students per grade level that we were reporting on. And as a parent, I just felt a bit uncomfortable that we're reporting on such a small student number. I always thought that from a privacy data protection perspective, we had to have at least like 5 students, but we've broken it down so far that we had like, in some cases, 3 or 4 students per grade level, and we were showing their test results here, how they were doing in an English language assessment. So that's just I wanted to raise that. That made me just a little bit uncomfortable seeing that. The second question was regarding the presentation on the master schedule. The question was raised earlier, that's why I didn't get up to repeat it again. I was just wondering where the kids are going to go for lunch, because they're not all going to fit into the cafeteria. I'm sure in many classrooms there are also concerns about having the kids eat in there, like the gym, the science labs, the music rooms, the art rooms, computer rooms. So where all those kids are going to actually be able to sit down for the unit lunch with their friends and eat. Thank you.
Elaine Daddario, your favorite resident, 46 Dykeman Place. First of all, I wanted to mention Jimmy. We're in love with you, Jimmy. You are the bomb. You are a great rep. I've been here for a long time, and you're really doing a fabulous job representing your student body. So that I wanted to make sure you knew from parents as well. The health curriculum, you said you're going to bring it out at the next Board of Ed meeting at some point. The problem being that that's about a week before the sophomores take driver's ed tests and then segue into the 3 weeks. It's not given us a lot of time to understand it, and the previous time that Stella came up, she did ask about opting out of those 3 weeks, and we are still wondering if you could explain to us that process of opting our kids out of those 3 weeks, should we feel that that's not something that is suitable for them. Another question that's been raised about option 2 with regards to the sophomores is option 2 is starting 3 weeks later because now our health curriculum has added 3 classes, and a parent who's not here had asked, how does that impact the option 2? Do you still have to complete the hours necessary for option 2 in less time? How does that impact where some people are signing up outside of school? If they're paying for those 3 weeks, but yet they can't actually use those 3 weeks of option 2. So if you can explain to us how option 2 for sophomores is going to work with the addition of those 3 weeks of health class, that would be helpful also in people making decisions. I know we've put in for the option 2, but are we going to now meet the criteria for option 2 with the state and the amount of hours that's necessary that goes with that? That was another concern. Also, I received an email today from Genesis, which I happen to really like, but the email was for WAMS parents, and I no longer have a student at WAMS. So I'm wondering, I mean, this has come up before, earlier in the year, and I gave time for maybe glitches and that you wanted to maybe figure out how to fine-tune where those emails go. So I guess the question was, are we going to get Genesis emails as a district for whatever goes on in different schools, or at some point was that just an error and still figuring out the glitches with the system? Not that I minded the email, but it didn't pertain to me. I didn't need the email. Let's see if I have anything else. Oh, the food. Unlocking those vending machines would be really helpful. If we are saying that Aramark and the contracts are coming up, I really hope that you guys work on that well. I don't feel like Aramark has served us well in this district, and if it's contract time, we need to let them know that and maybe work through that. I really thank you guys for bidding out to other people, and I do hope that works out. But the food isn't something the kids are liking, and you're saying it's coming at a cost, but we're paying a cost to have food that they don't eat also. So it'd be nice, even if the food, my son likes hummus. Like you said, Robin, if vegetarian options are not that big a deal, that's something we don't really have to wait for contract negotiations on. And I don't know how the vending machines being locked is tied to Aramark. I know they don't want kids buying other things other than what they're serving, but to serve our community, hopefully we don't have to listen to that and we can open those up so the kids can get a bar or something to eat, because I can tell you my kid doesn't eat here, but yet I have tons of money in his Aramark account. And I do hope with the drop schedule, and then I'm done, that I keep, again, seeing the option 2, and you all know I love option 2 for many reasons and not just for my child. It seems like you're prepping us to phase that out. Can you give me any idea if that's true or if I'm off base there? Because option 2 is something people in this district are passionate about. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Is there anyone else for public comment? No? Okay, I'll close public comment.
So the Genesis email, I heard about the Genesis email that I think it came from the middle school and went to more people than it was supposed to. That was an error, and I think it was the first time that that individual had sent a large volume email. And so it went, I think the intent was the 6th grade parents, and I think it went to a lot more than that. So that was hopefully a one-off error. I spoke to the person about it, an honest mistake. Health curriculum, thanks for the thoughts. We can certainly try to include that into what we put into the next presentation on that topic. As far as the unlocking of vending machines, we are in a contract now that specifies that we're not going to be selling food via vending machines at the same time that the cafeteria is open. So what we talked about last year, and I think it helped a little bit, but maybe we need to revisit it, is asking if the Aramark staff can sell themselves what some of the items are in the vending machines that the kids want. So we can try to have that conversation with the students and see if Aramark can do that. That's what they said last year, so I don't see any reason why they can't do that. Oh, right. A couple people asked about this issue. Sure. So we know that we are not building a cafeteria. We are building a kitchen and servery. It does not have seating in it. So we're going to look to get creative with seating around the building in other places, whether it be in the gyms or in other open areas where we might be able to put some tables for the kids, set some stuff up and take some stuff down. We know that that's a cost. We've looked into that. We're prepared to have to deal with that. It'll happen. It may not be perfect, but we're certainly open to opening up lots of spaces so that kids can have a place to hang out and eat with their friends.
And those of us that went on the site visits to other schools that have the common lunch saw that the other schools are doing it that way, and the students seem happy with it. So I think it's going to definitely work out fine. I did want to just follow up on the question about option 2 and how it works, because having had kids doing it for a number of years, like that 3-week, overlap needs to be clarified so the kids know what they're supposed to do, because you don't want to get in trouble for not doing your hours, obviously. So, so hopefully that communication can go out to the students so they understand how that 3 weeks will be handled. Do they have to do their hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
At
we'll
the
have to
Y or
put
whatever.
that
We'll have to
into
put some kind of
next week,
clarification out. Yeah. Okay, we're up to board forum. Does anyone have anything for board forum? Karen?
I just have a couple of comments, and I'm going to work backwards from the one you just mentioned. I hope that with the addition of 3 weeks of content, we're not expecting students to overlap. If we're not having PE, which would be option
Right.
2 in lieu of PE, then I would expect that they wouldn't need to do their 150 minutes a week for those 3 weeks. I don't know that, but I'm just saying, I would hope that that's.
But like with the Y, like the Y signs off on it, sends it back to Ridge, we have to make sure that like the off-site ones, that like the
I
Y and stuff
understand.
understands that those kids weren't supposed to do those
Well,
3 weeks.
but
if they're not
that would
supposed to
be
do the
incumbent
3 weeks.
upon the district to communicate with whatever outlet the student is using.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then I just want to address one of the, or I think multiple people may have asked this question in the earlier public comment about what are the things that are good. One of the things that I've heard from a number of staff members is that if we move to a rotating drop schedule and we have a common lunch, we also have collaboration time for the professionals who work with our students every single day. And they don't have that right now, and I've heard that, they're gone now, but I've heard that directly from a number of teachers that say, I teach AP English, or I teach CP Conceptual Bio, and I never get to have professional time with my contemporaries in that course because our schedules don't line up between the 5 courses, the 5 classes they're committed to teaching each day, and then their prep and their duty. There's only a certain amount of time that anyone is available. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And then I personally have a huge problem with if there's not enough food for 8th period lunch, then they need to get whatever items kids want out of the vending machines, or we need to break the contract and open the vending machines because kids need to have food. And it's unacceptable for the cafeteria to run out of food and be like, oh, well, if you left for the house in the morning and you didn't bring a lunch expecting to eat lunch in 8th period, then I think there should be something available to eat. And that really, really bothers me because I don't like the kids have to eat that late to begin with when they've been up since 6 o'clock in the morning. So by God, there should be food. It really bothers me, I'm sorry.
It's true.
One more thing, I just want to say that Mrs. Richmond and I attended what I called it to my daughter vaping training the other night, but in a good way.
Did you learn how?
So rather than double up, I think you were prepared to talk, but we both found it to be really interesting, and I think in combination with what Linda mentioned before from the Municipal Alliance, there's a lot of good things coming our way.
I just want to follow up about something else that is very positive about the rotating drop that ties into the lunch itself. My 3rd child is now at Ridge, and so one of the comments I've heard every year is when they get their schedule and then trying to figure out which of their friends have the same lunch period, and then struggling when they're like, my friends aren't in my lunch period. Who am I going to eat with? What am I going to do? You know what, I'll eat quickly, I'll go to the media center, or I'll go to the choir room. Anything to avoid going into the cafeteria and sitting with random people or having the stress of, well, now I got to make friends with people for 40 minutes so I have somebody to eat with. Now, everyone is available for lunch at the same time. You can have lunch with your friends, which is really, really important, whether it's, 4th period, whenever the lunch is, or 8th period, to experience not being able to just sit and chat with your friends at lunch, it's stressful. So right there, that's a huge bonus to me that my kids won't have to deal with that.
For work, I travel and visit high schools, and many of them have these kind of drop-out or modified block schedules. And as a parent in the district that we transferred in from, I was sort of appalled at the fact that the high school had this common lunch and the kids were sitting in the halls and, oh my goodness, what was this going to mean? And I've seen it played out in many, many schools, and really, even though it may gross us out a little bit to think of them sitting in some random classroom or on the floor, the kids love it. And for 45 minutes or whatever period of time, they get a little freedom. And really, in the structure of all of it, talking about SEL, I think this is a really important time period. I don't think they care where they eat, they just want to be, timed down. And that's so critical. And it does work. It really does play out. I actually was in a school during a fire drill during the common lunch period, and it still worked out. It was all fine.
I also want to say that I think it's good that they're talking about putting the classrooms together, like the wings, because like my husband was just saying how when we were in high school, which was 100 years ago, but you knew where the classroom, I needed to see my chemistry teacher, which I didn't take, okay, my biology teacher. And you knew the exact classroom they were in. And I went to a smaller school, a small Catholic school, but it'd be nice to be able to at least narrow it down to 3 classrooms. If you were trying to find a teacher or someone in the science program, it's just nicer for the teachers and for the students to really have a better idea where people can be found when you need them. To talk about anything, when they do like, tutoring or anything like that. It's nice to have them grouped. I think it would just make it easier, along with the lunch, which I'm a big fan of, and I think I think whether or not we did this, we needed to do something about lunch. I mean, I'm sorry, I've been saying that. Whether you drop or, it's ridiculous to have 5 lunches and kids eating at 10 and kids eating at 2 or whatever. It doesn't help anyone. And it just makes it chaotic for everybody. I've done the welcome desk, which I don't even know exists anymore, but when they were doing lunches, you're like, oh my God. When you're there experiencing it, you're like, this is insanity, like in and out. So I just think it's, it's money well spent, and I think it will benefit all the students in the end. So plus with the extra classrooms, I just think it's something that had to be done either way, and I'm glad that we're doing it.
I think it's something else that, like Mike was talking about, the added instructional time. It's not just that the periods are longer, but you gain the time that you gain from not having as much passing time each day and all the unpacking and packing up and all that stuff. So there's gained instructional time, which is obviously an educational benefit too, that we can't forget about. Because that's where we started. Remember those charts with how many exact minutes it was going to change by? We kind of lost sight of all that because we started focusing on the logistics, like how are we going to feed the kids and how is it all going to work for science or music or whatever. We kind of lost sight of the original conversation. So people who are jumping in midway, we haven't been clear enough talking about all that. But
and depending on how the lunch plays out, how the efficiency works, how it works to move the kids through, you may find out, wow, maybe we can add a little bit or subtract a little bit from the amount of time that's necessary for the unit lunch to strike the right balance where you're giving the kids a nice break, but you're able to actually put a few more minutes back to class. So we just have to see how that plays out in actually going through the process of serving lunches.
Well, and also in terms of the classes and the longer time, I know that there's concern about, how are these kids going to sit here for, a longer class? Well, they're not going to be sitting there for a longer class because the class will be structured differently. That's the whole point. There might be a hands-on activity. There might be, a 15-minute lesson before they do something. But to me, also one of the greatest things is there now will be time for kids to ask questions. The bell's not going to ring, and they're going to walk out the door, not sure about their homework, not sure about the lesson. There'll be time to actually take all those questions or work with kids in smaller groups because there's more time built in for that. So the classroom day, each lesson will be structured differently than how it is now because there's that freedom with the extra time built in. So, they're not just going to be sitting there for 63 minutes, staring at their teacher, talking, thinking, oh my God, I can't sit here any longer. It's a different way of teaching.
I just want to piggyback on that and say one of the other things I've heard from staff members is many times, especially in like the humanities, English and social studies or a course like psychology, they might be smack dab in the middle of an incredibly thought-provoking conversation and discussion with the group in the classroom, and the teacher has to curtail it because the bell's going to ring or because there's something that they need to know before they walk out the door, and it's just when the kids have gotten started and just when they've really embraced the topic. So I think, and one of our now supervisors is a big champion of this, that in those history classes, there's a lot of great conversation to be had that the students miss out on because of the hurried pace of a 42-minute class. And on a completely unrelated note, I just want to say to this group, I'm incredibly saddened to learn that the Mount Prospect Science Fair is no more. My 4 children all attended Mount Prospect School for a period of 14 years. I was a parent at Mount Prospect School, and there was never not a science fair, so that makes me very, very sad to hear, and I hope there's some more information about that. I'm sure Ms. Hosney was passionate about it because she was a part of it for many years, so that's just really sad news.
I mean,
Isn't
my
that
understanding
PTO
it was a
run? I don't know.
PTO run event, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know, but have you heard it from anywhere else? Is it?
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
I hadn't heard
Yeah.
anything about it, so we'll check on it.
I know in the past there was other different school that had to cancel it due to lack of parent volunteers, and the PTO couldn't get people to chair it and stuff. So I don't know. We'll have to find out. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to just say, and let us not forget, hopefully with a longer class period, the students will have more time for their tests, that they're rushing and forgetting, totally stressed out to try to finish in 43 minutes. So hopefully with a longer time, they'll have that, not longer tests, but longer time to take the test.
Okay.
One other, on the other
Go
thing.
ahead.
Oh, sorry, did I interrupt?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
With the traditional schedule that we have right now, periods 1 through 9, my child has missed many in period 9 class for sports. And she's only a one-season sports person, so it doesn't turn out to be a huge amount. But for 3 seasoned athletes who might have to leave, they're always missing period 9. And I'm looking at their schedule like, oh, what do you have period 9? They can't all be scheduled for study hall. It doesn't work out that way. So the rotating schedule will really help ease the number of classes that students miss, whether it's on the front end or the back end, and it'll just distribute it better.
Yeah, I mean, schools that have done it, found a lot of benefit for the kids who are tardy every day and things like that. Because there are some kids that, for whatever reasons, whatever the struggles are to get to school on time, and it's impacting those classes in the morning a lot. So, yeah. Well, I have trouble getting up in the morning too, but. Okay, is there anything else for board forum? Does someone want to make a motion for adjournment? Mr. Salmon and Mrs. Korn. All in favor? Aye.